Mike Prince, joined by our football guru, Coach Heist Northern. Coach, how you doing today, sir?
Man, everything's going pretty good. Had a chance to go down and check out some of the Cactus Jack baseball series down there, and high school baseball has started, and high school basketball is getting ready to wrap up. So it's a good bit going on in the area, and then the softball has started at the collegiate level. So it's a lot of things going on. Then we wrapping up or getting ready to move into the basketball side of the SWAC tournament and all the March Madness and all that kind of stuff. So it's still a good bit going on, even though there's no professional football being played right now.
Right. Well, also around the corner, we're still a little ways off, that spring football league will be kicking off. Are you much into that, Coach, the spring football?
Yeah, I watch it, especially if it is guys that I know that are coaching in the league, as well as some, if it's some SWAC guys, in particular if it's a SWAC quarterback, a SWAC running back or wide receiver, I pay a little bit more attention if it's guys that I know are going to some kind of way have the ball in their hands. So I'll watch it a little bit more than the casual guy will. And then if it's a SWAC, a defensive end that I know had a lot of sacks, maybe an undersized guy that can run, still trying to give it a shot to get in the NFL world, then I will watch that as well. But for the most part, I will watch it, but it's, I'm looking for certain things.
Right. And it's still a work in progress. When you look at it, I think a good thing was the merging of the two leagues, the USFL and the XFL, to create the United Football League, because that was the only way they were going to exist anyway. It wasn't enough, at least to me, good enough talent to keep people's interest to have two separate leagues. So they came to a happy medium on that. When you talk about the increased chances, and we know that the ultimate goal is to land in the NFL, but we got this Legacy Bowl coming up this weekend, and you got opportunities like this United Football League. And although it's only 8 teams, there's still room for more jobs. I think they're like 45-man rosters. So you got, another 300-plus opportunities for guys within that HBCU realm.
Yes, it's another chance to, get some more tape out there, especially for the guys that may have played at a smaller level that didn't get that initial look to get in NFL camps. And I was listening to a guy talk that had a personnel background, and he was basically saying that I would rather miss on a guy from a Power 5 school with all the measurables, but might not be as good of a football player, than taking a chance on a guy from a smaller school that might still have the measure or maybe a little bit light in the pocket, a couple inches shorter, but is a tremendous football player. They would rather miss on a big school guy than a small school guy. But that's what they say. That's where the work comes in when you're trying to figure out, can this guy play at our level or can he play at another level given the opportunity? But that goes, it's that old thing. And I've sat in some of those meetings when I've done some internships where they say, all right, give X, a guy from the SEC or Big 12, let's give him some more reps to see if what we invested in this guy, because if he got a signing bonus, they are, quote-unquote, invested in the guy. Let's give him some more reps to see, can he cut the mustard, or do we need to cut him instead of giving a smaller guy, a small school guy, a chance to, get those same opportunities. So it's like I said, I've seen it and heard it, but it's still a great chance for guys. But, guys still, when I say guys, the NFL, XFL, Canadian League, they'd rather miss on big school guys than small school guys.
Right. That's why you have to take advantage of every opportunity and be stuck on ready. And when given a chance, man, even try to expose guys, show up, guy up that that is getting maybe a little preferential treatment over your opportunities. There's no need of complaining about it. Just strap in and go, which draws back to another narrative that I strongly believe in. Why not give it all you can with an institution that's going to support you, that was designed for you, because you get a chance to improve your skill set. And when given that opportunity, you might not have come from a large program, but you got enough opportunities for honing in on your craft to show that guy up who might check off all the boxes, but might not have the reps and let's just be honest, the heart that you have.
Yes, and that was one of the things when I interned with the Raiders a few years back. It was quite a few guys from the SEC that played defensive line, linebacker, all those types of positions. And one of the guys, I know he went to Mississippi State, he said, man, we need some more SWAC free agents because them dudes be hungry. These guys that we bring in from all these other places, man, them dudes ain't hungry like no SWAC dudes is. So, and they know, like, if you give them guys a chance, that they going to outwork guys because they first of all, they got the weight of the world, the weight of the conference on their shoulders and back, and they trying to point, whereas, other guys may get a little bit more opportunity just because of where they went to school. So, and when guys said that sort of, perked my ears and eyes up a little bit, like, man, if these guys are saying it, then they sort of saw what was going on. It was like, they just wanted to bring fast guys in. Nah, man, we need to bring some hungry guys in because, at that time, the culture was guys didn't want to work up there. And, they called me Dr. Death when I was up there. Like, man, you don't have to coach NFL guys like you coach college guys. I was like, man, this is the only way I know how to coach is to work. And but those guys to say that we need some SWAC guys, especially in the secondary in that linebacker spot, that was an eye opener.
Right, and it's mighty funny how you could be a Southernite and a JSU fan base, but when it comes to the NFL, you're brothers, and you're pulling for each other and supporting each other because, like you say, you have the weight of the conference on you, and all eyes are on you. I still look at some of the guys who came through the SWAC and still holding on and doing their thing in the NFL, and it makes you real proud to say, man, those guys stomped in some of the same fields that I stomped in and doing their thing, and it's just the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, so one of the things, a couple of things that we talked about, we talk about as a family. One, when I was growing up in Baton Rouge, the Saints were not very good. So my mother went to school at Grambling. So when we would get NFL games on TV, we basically watched and pulled for guys that she knew that went to school at Grambling. So it was the Doug Williams, Sammy White, Big Hands Johnson. It was, you could, Charlie Joyner, you can go down the list and everybody had a couple. Jimmy Giles played tight end for the Buccaneers with Doug Williams. So, the Jackie Slaters and the Walter Payton. So I could go down the list of all the guys that we pulled for Grambling guys first, but then it sort of went over into that SWAC world that we, like I say, we grew up on that, as opposed to we didn't just grow up pulling for the Saints because they were not very good. The other thing is, man, I was watching a documentary on TV the other day, and they were talking about the Alcorn versus Mississippi Valley game, the Gunslinger versus the Godfather, Jerry Rice versus Isaac Hope. And, I was fortunate enough, I played for Marino Chasm. I played for Archie Cooley. Both of those guys were on the staff at Southern University during my playing days. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, how fortunate I am to have played in the conference with guys like that and to play for them. It was, I'm saying to myself, man, I got to make my son watch this. And, I'm going to bring my teammate that lives around the corner from me, like, hey, man, look at who we played for on national TV. So, it was big from that standpoint. But like I say, I'm SWAC through and through.
Absolutely. And, it throws out the window the old narrative that you got to be on a big stage to be seen. If you got the skill set, they will find you. It doesn't matter if you're playing for Okie Doke School in anywhere USA. If you can play, they will find you. And my narrative has always been, go where you know that you're wanted and not just hoarded. Go where you can make an impact, a difference, and go where you get a chance to represent you and your people.
And one thing I used to tell kids, if they were having a tough decision about where they were gonna go to school, I would ask them questions. If you were not a football player, where do you think you would fit in the most? What place do you think you would like the most? That was a lot of times that might be the tiebreaker. Now it became a problem sometimes when you recruiting. Just say when I was at Prairie View or Grambling, and a Howard University, truth be told, was recruiting a kid against us, because you like to say Howard can show you a whole different side of America and Black America than a Grambling or a Prairie View could. But it's still the same thing. But we would lose a kid. That was probably the only school that in my recruiting days, that I couldn't, more or less use that against. But everybody else, because kids can find a good time. Kids can find comfort. They can find belonging at, those schools, and I've always been at a quote-unquote country school, but it was always, you could use that dynamic to try to sway guys' decision if they were choosing between an HBCU and a PUI, or between most HBCUs too. And that was another thing with the parents, working at a Grambling and Prairie View, you can use it, hey, this is, you close enough to the city to have a good time, but for the most part, you're far enough away that you don't have to worry about certain things that happens at the city schools.
Right. Well, when we were in discussion on last week, and, I don't know about you sometimes, Coach, I said, man, I could have brought that up to Coach, but now you didn't jog the memory. Sometimes I have an afterthought. And part of my assessment was we've been talking about this culture all over the place. I'm actually tired of hearing that word. I call it a swear word nowadays. But a lot of the challenge that people may not want to acknowledge nor even address is that some of our student athletes, they settle to come to our institutions. It wasn't the top 3 choices that they wanted to be at, and they said, oh, well, I guess that I'll go over here. And I'm believing, after years of seeing this, that's part of the lack of interest when it comes to supporting athletic events, because they're there, but they're not there. They're just there to treat it as time served, as if they're in a prison sentence or something, so they can move on with the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I think you can find that a little bit, because in certain instances, I would say some guys, I think they would act a little bit different had they been somewhere else, because I would put it like this. If you know that Coach Northern, Coach Prince going to have your back no matter what, you may say, well, I'm going to do this. But if you know that your relationship with certain coaches is transactional, and if I don't do X, Y, Z, they're going to get rid of me, that might keep some guys in line a little bit. And they may try to put more effort because they know they won't get sent home for the same transgressions. And I've actually had a parent tell me that she had a son that was at Prairie View, another son that was at a West Coast Power 5 school, and she basically said, if my son did this I think he was at Washington State. If my son did this at Washington State, they would have cut him already. I'm like, well, you should have the same standards for us, because, we are the same people that took a chance on your son when nobody else did. One of those types of deals. So I think that is a little bit, I can see that happening, sort of in the same thing. And one of the things I'm a go to the, sort of just being there buying time, where, I looked at it like we were talking about recruiting locally. So I went to school at Southern. My dad, I had walked home from Southern University to my dad's house before. I ran home certain parts of the way, but it's a short enough drive or walk that I can, run home almost. So we were talking about recruiting locally, and does that help attendance? Well, we were talking about my family, and my mom had 7 brothers and sisters. My dad has, I want to say, 8. None of my uncles and aunts came to a football game at Southern University the whole while I was playing. And that's, from a group of people. So going back to does recruiting locally help attend? In my opinion, no. Just looking back at my own family, and I know we had talked about that before, but that sort of came up with the buying time and the outlook on the university itself. So it just sort of all that sort of ties into each other, because it was like pretty much no connection before, or some connection, because you may watch a game. They would go to the Bayou Classic, but they were doing that before but they never set foot on Southern University campus when I was playing football. So,
yeah, and the irony of that is we don't show up to the home games, but we'll attend the road games, and that's great. But your finances are being left away from the homestead. Yeah. Because they don't give a percentage like in the NFL. Right. Yeah. The hotels, the travel, the meals, and the time spent to get there. And a lot of people, this is not a revenue sharing plateau. No. You get what you can get from your home games.
Yeah. And that goes back to, we were talking about Southern and their road, how well they travel. So I did go look it up. McNeese, the highest attended game is Southern University. Louisiana Lafayette, the highest attended game is versus Southern University. Northwestern State, I want to say 3 of their 5 top attended games, and mind you, they play Stephen F. Austin, which is right across the river from them, is a Southern University game. So, for a while, Southern fans would brag upon, we going to come take over your stadium. But at the same time, like you say, what about our home stadium? Or we, buy season tickets, and if you don't go to the game, so what? That money is still going to be used by the university. Or don't, you want to buy a ticket to the first game. Let me see what they do. Buy a ticket to homecoming. Let me see what they do. Buy a ticket to the Bayou, and it's no different. I would say at Prairie View, it was buy a ticket to the Labor Day Classic, buy a ticket to homecoming, and all other games is going to be on a let me see how they do type of basis. And then that's how
they'll go. They're gonna do that State Fair Classic too. Homecoming, State Fair, and Labor Day.
And then they're gonna end up with a game like they had. You have a chance to play for the championship, and each player could go around and introduce themselves to the fans. It was so few people at the game, so it's we just have to do better. And I know we sort of getting off, but we sort of going back over some things that we had talked about previously when you talk about recruiting and fan attendance and, different ways to keep money in-house instead of, we spending all this money on the road and getting hotels. And I know Lafayette and Baton Rouge is an hour apart, so they may not have had a hotel, but I bet you probably couldn't find a bottle of Crown Royal between Lafayette and Baton Rouge that weekend. Ain't no ribs and all the Piggly Wigglies and all that sold out of ribs that weekend.
I know that's right. We're talking, of course, with Coach Heiss Northern. We're breaking these things down, talking about the opportunities that are being created with the additional spring football league, the United Football League, being combined by the XFL and the USFL. And we know this legacy game will be this coming weekend, but that's really more of a show and tell moment. All the hard work has been put into the prep, and we've talked about this, as you stated, when it goes to recruiting and increasing a player's stock to that nature. Have you seen or even heard of a guy putting in the prep and come game day, they decide not to play, or or maybe an injury or something may have occurred on the last whatever process, walkthroughs or whatever, does that hurt the stock, or does it actually doesn't really matter because they've seen what they need to see from that individual?
Yeah, it's sort of double-edged, especially if a guy has a history of injury. So what may happen, because some guys, they hadn't done anything very physical since November for most guys, and you'll get those, those bumps and bruises of banging bodies against each other. That will happen to some guys, just the banging of knees or shoulders gonna feel. But my high school coach used to say, if you playing football, you're not gonna feel good again until 3 to 4 weeks after the season over. So you're gonna get those bumps. You got to play through them. You're not gonna feel good playing football once the season actually starts. So a big part of it is being able to play through that. I put it like, I just saw that a kid that was a starter at Southern, and it helped him. Somebody got injured, and they called him on Monday to come fill in for a guy that was supposed to play in the Legacy Bowl. So that worked out good for him. So I know that means one guy got hurt and is not going to play, but you don't know who all has been hurt since then. The other thing is the NFL scouts, if they start practice, they have a weigh-in session / combine on that Sunday most of the time, or either Monday morning. That's what they're doing, trying to see who fits the measurement. You getting weighed with no shoes and socks on. You just basically pretty much walking around with tights on. So they want to see what does this guy's body look like? Is he, we talk about the calf to ankle ratio. We talking about hips to shoulder ratio. Does he look like a football? Does he look like somebody that works out? Does he look like somebody that takes the weight room serious? Or does he look like just a guy that's getting by because he's bigger than everybody, or because he is faster than everybody? And then they want to see, let's see, how does this guy look in drills? But it's that Sunday through, I say, Tuesday is very tough and physical for the most part, because you got guys that know that, hey man, this may be the only / last chance to do something good with NFL scouts standing right there on my heels while I'm doing the drill. So, some guys, they gonna like you say, they gonna cut bait or they gonna fish, and a lot of them trying to fish right now.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, I had this question pop up. How often, and I'm sure it has happened a time or two, when you look at a guy, and when you look at him, there is nothing that's jumping off the table about his appearance. He might look non-physical. He might be knock-kneed, and he might be a tad bit slow. But when they get on that field, it's like something magical happens. And you have to say, you know what? He doesn't look the part, but this dude is a football player. How often do you come across that, and how many times have you been surprised when you see that?
Hey, man, we say Joker look like hamburger and play like steak. Don't look the part. don't have no muscles. Don't look, we say, like they say, they don't look sweet. They don't have swag, but they football players. When the lights come on, they know how to get to the football. They're a defensive guy. Or if the lights come on, they know how to make you miss in space. And I'll tell you this, a lot of people you remember Willie Quinn? He was an All-American punt returner, kickoff returner, receiver.
Yes, sir.
At Southern.
At Southern University. He broke the Panthers' heart on many days.
Hey, man, I can remember us going through Coach Williams. I can see it just like it was yesterday, saying, look, man, he is going to start this way, and he going to cut that thing all the way back. So, and lo and behold, he did it and cut down our sideline. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I wonder how much they'll fine me if I tackle this kid. But, Willie was a guy, if you just saw him on campus, you would think he was a regular guy. Wasn't muscular, no six-pack. He, didn't really like working out. He would go I was fortunate enough because I would still go to Southern during certain times of the year to, go in the weight room when I was at home. But man, he was a perfect example of don't not carved up, but that joker made plays. And, we had some guys like that. A lot of people may remember, if you think about a Zach East. Zach wasn't a very muscular guy, but, man, you talk about a football playing Jesse. That joker just, we pretty much set our defense to make sure he made as many tackles as possible because he wasn't the fastest guy, but he had a great understanding of, okay, this is the formation, 9 times out of 10, this is what they're going to do. And I tell him, hey, man, if you guess full speed and react to your misguess. But, just if you got a good hunch, you studied enough film to play that. But it's you can go down the list of guys, like I say. But, Willie on the offensive side probably put that in my mind the most. And then Zach East on the defensive side because, like I say, no more. He was a big kid, but wasn't cut up. One of them type of guys. So, those two guys remind me of the most.
Right. So when you look at that, and I know this game is about speed, strength, and power, but if you got guys who are students of the game, because I think that's another level that is not quite measured. You got guys that are just naturally gifted, some guys looking like Greek gods, but they're not students of the game. They just do it because they're bigger than everybody. They're faster than everybody. But when you have a guy who's a tweener, okay, he might be 2 or 3 inches short. He might be 30 pounds lighter. But whatever the time comes that person needs to be there, they're there. They make the right angles, and they just do everything. How many guys do you think you could win with like that in comparison to that straight raw speed, that talent? I'm thinking more from a defensive set because we know it's about the 6'3" receivers. It's about the 4'2" 40s and this, that, and the other. But if I got guys that zoned out or whatnot in a right place, can you win with this type of player?
It's going to be hard too because one of the things, and I've heard it said, like say, having been able to sit in on some personnel meetings in the NFL, it was almost like you can't coach speed. They would rather take a fast guy over a more athletic guy and try to, as they say, coach him up. And because if 9 times out of 10, if the guy that plays perfect technique makes any mistake, speed is going to beat him, and you can't coach catch up. That's what I've heard people say. You can't coach catch up. You can't coach you behind, get back in his pocket or whatever. Get back. They call it being in phase with the receiver. You can't teach a slow guy to be in phase, but you can teach a fast guy how to catch up. So that's sort of the way the game is going. If you get beat, you can't catch up. So it's you can win with, I think, guys at certain positions like that. You got to have speed coming off the edge, but your defensive tackles don't have to be the fastest guys. Then I think your middle linebacker, depending on what scheme you play, can be a little bit slower. But your outside linebackers, especially if they have to play some man-to-man, or if you blitzing them, they have to be faster. You can go back and look at the Super Bowl. There were a couple plays where guys were coming off the edge, and had they been there a step sooner, they get a sack on Pat Mahomes, or they get a sack on Purdy or something like that. So that's why speed is so important. And I've heard coaches say speed makes the field smaller and speed makes the field bigger at the same time. So the way you make it defensive speed makes the field smaller because now you got a guy that can cover some ground. But if you have a fast guy on offense, it makes the field, I should say longer. Defense from side to side, offense if you got speed, it can make the field longer than what it is if you're not running out of the back of the end zone. So that's why it's so important to, when you have certain field position, to be able to have guys that can run and not give up plays over the top. But if you got a fast receiver outside, what he can do is take the top off of the defense. Now you have more levels underneath to pick that 10 to 14-yard pass, or now you got a guy with real speed. He's run a go route, and then you run a swing route out the backfield. Now it's a whole lot of separation between the swing route and the guy that ran the go route, and you putting pressure on the defense that way.
Right. And I was just thinking, because everybody's not going to get the pure sprinter or the power lifter. But if you design schemes, and I know the advantage of being a college coach, a professional coach in comparison to a high school coach to some degree, is you can or you should be able to adjust your scheme to the type of players that you have available and that are accessible to you. When you look at if your budget is at a certain plateau, and I know I can only draw a certain type of player, do you think it should be a bit more favorable for guys trying to adjust schemes to what's accessible to them in comparison to try to make the scheme that they like fit?
Yeah, I think you have to have what do you want to do in mind, but if you don't have those people, you have to adjust. So you may just say, for instance, if I really like a 4-3 defense, but because of either who I'm playing against or what I have at the linebacker spot, it may look more like a 4-2-5 defense than a true 4-3. So you have to have what we call sub packages, and it goes to every other sport. You may want to be, if a basketball coach, he may want to be a press, fast break, but if he doesn't have guys that can run or a big man that can get the ball and be a good passer, then you have to change that strategy. Or you want to be a man-to-man defense, but if your point guards can't stop anybody, then you got to play a little bit more zone or sack. You have what you want to do, but you have to be able to adjust to what you have. I laughed the other day. I was at the baseball games down at Minute Maid, and man, some of those bunt attempts would have made the old school coaches have a stroke on the middle of the field. I mean, guys looked like they were shaking in their spikes up there trying to bunt the ball. And, they were stabbing at it. I mean, it just looked bad, the bunt attempts that I saw. And it wasn't just one school. It was a variety of schools that just couldn't get a bunt down. Then next thing you know, they can't advance the runner, and now you got to hope a kid get a hit with 2 strikes, and he just stabbed at 2 balls. It's just, oh man, it's like I say, you gotta have what you want to do, but at the same time, you got to be able to execute or have kids. If not, then just hit and run. But then, if your guy's on second, you really can't hit and run with him. So it's like I say, all that strategy that goes into it that the everyday person doesn't think about, but as a coach, you have to think about, can this kid get a bunt down, especially in a pressing situation?
Well, we're definitely going to have to talk about that in just a few minutes, because it's ironic that you bring that up. Baseball program from Prairie View played first non-conference. I guess all of them been non-conference games.
Yeah.
But played outside the conference against U of H, and it wasn't a pretty sight. It was pretty bad. But it goes back to it, and I say it all the time, and I know that people say, man, the fundamentals are going to always be the same no matter what level you're playing on. Football, basketball, baseball, the fundamentals are the fundamentals. And if you can't do anything, I'm about to transition to baseball just for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect you to hit 400. I don't expect you to even hit 300 sometimes, because the laws of physics and a round ball connected with a round bat. But you got to catch the ball. You got to be able to throw the ball. You got to be able to play defense, right? And so when defense is failing, when execution is failing, it makes it a hard watch. And I think that's where a lot of people miss the beauty and the strategic matters that are involved with baseball. When you talk about that bunting, unfortunately, a lot of guys don't know how to bunt because, A, they don't practice it. They're not really enforced on the purpose of what that true bunt is. If I give you a runner at first and second situation, that is sacrifice bunt. I'm not asking you to bunt for a base hit. Square your tail around, bunt the ball. You don't have to jab at it. And it's called having soft hands. When that ball is approaching you, you actually retrieve your bat towards you to deaden the blow. So it does go just you want that tweener right between the catcher and the pitcher and force them to make a decision. And it's a lost art, Coach. It's a lost art. It's just like tackling in football, right? A lot of people are complaining about the lack of tackling at the highest level. Well, because of all of the money that's being spent, they said, look, we can't afford these guys to get hurt. We do these walk-through drills. We're not putting on no pads because when you got pads, it has a tendency to make you more aggressive. So when these guys have the pads on and it's real live ammunition, some of the tackling is horrible, especially in the defensive backfields. But that comes to practice.
Yes, and some of that, I put it, going back to football, some of the tackling is bad because some of the guys are, part of it is flat out scary. The other part is they don't know how to get themselves in a proper hitting position because they don't, like you say, they don't do it much or if at all in practice. You know, some coaches say, you know, a dog gonna bite or he not. So, you know, you try to teach them the tackling technique without the tackling part. That's the roughest part, like you say, especially on the NFL level. They don't want guys. They don't want the starting running back to get tackled by a guy that's trying to make the team, and then you end up with money on the sideline. So it's all of that. But you know, it's the fundamentals are the fundamentals. You know, you have to take advantage of the talent that you do have. The thing that, and going to baseball, the thing that I would like to see when a game gets like that, walks and errors, because you have to think that you're gonna give up some hits depending on. And the other thing is, like, how is the game being called? Because you can almost watch a game and it's almost like you don't get the corner call or the river, as some people say, that the black between the home plate and the box. If you don't get that call, now you almost forced to pitch middle, and then you're gonna give up a lot. So I would be interested to see how many walks did Prairie View have and how many errors did they have, and that'll pretty much tell me everything I need to know about the game. And it happened to, I saw LSU beat somebody 27-5, supposedly a pretty decent program. But when you get to those past the third arms, you're going to struggle with strikes. You're going to struggle with velocity. I was talking to somebody. I watched Prairie View game. They were down 10-2 in the second inning. And I said, they're going to come back and win this game. I didn't think it was going to be 15-14, but I knew that Alcorn didn't have enough arms to hold them off from when they started walking people, or when the fifth guy that comes in was going to be throwing 80 miles per hour fastball. I knew that Prairie View was going to be able to catch up. So sometimes, like I say, that baseball can be a tough watch just depending on how it's being played. And it's hard for me watching my son play sometimes, his team play, when you see the same thing, not getting a bunt down, an easy error, bad base running, all those types of things.
Right. Now, I'm going to resist you just a little bit when it comes to pitching. And I think one of the greatest misconceptions is that people think that a bona fide effective pitcher has to throw 90-plus miles an hour. And that is the furthest from the truth. All that tells me, if the dude can throw hard, has velocity, but doesn't necessarily make them a pitcher per se. Because the art of pitching is to keep the batter's timing off. And he might have an 80-mile-an-hour fastball, but if he has a changeup that might come in at 72, 75 miles an hour, it makes that 80-mile-an-hour fastball look even faster. Okay, he might not be able to throw if you could throw it, I was just talking to my son about this morning. You could have a 4-seam fastball, which is going to move one way, a 2-seam fastball, which is going to move another way, add a changeup and a slider. Now you have 4 effective pitches. And one of the other greatest misconceptions, it is not your job to strike out every batter. Yeah. Your job is to have them put the ball in play to let the other 7 guys who are behind you get the out. And when you understand, why do you think they say if you're hitting 3 out of 10, you're considered good? Because you got 7 gloves out there that's ready to stop you from getting to first base. So use all of that to your advantage. Knowing the situation. Just because I'm throwing 80 miles an hour, you might hit it, but don't mean you're going to hit it out the park every time. You might hit it hard, but guess what? You got a 70% chance that it's going to be hit right at somebody. Yeah. And so go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's why I asked about the errors part, because, like I say, there's no defense for walks, but I always say if you walk the first guy in and count their run, but the other part is if you have a chance to make a double play, don't make a double play, count that run. So and it goes back to, like I say, they gonna hit the ball right at somebody a lot of times. Sometimes the hardest hit balls are outs, but you might get a CNI single or something. But the thing about it is don't give up bases and don't give up runs because you're not playing good defense. But the pitching part, you are spot on about being able to keep them off balance. Throw the cutter. Come in on them, even if you're throwing it for a ball, then go back to the outside corner, then come back high and inside, then go back out, then come back inside with a fastball, a change up. But like I said, you got to keep that change up down though, because if you don't, they're gonna be playing music while that joker running around the base on the slow jog or whatever. But
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That baseball is just all sports pretty much have the same dynamics of execution, offense, defense, situational things. The third and short in football is gonna be a backbreaker, just like first and second, no outs. Can you get that guy? Can you get 2 runners in scoring position? And then can you get you a fly ball? Or can you get a ball backside to score a run? All that type of stuff. But
right.
I'm looking for
another thing I want to highlight about pitching. In particular, when we play up, if you would, and we're playing a program that's well established, we don't have the horses in the stable to try to match them pitcher for pitcher. So the greatest advantage that a pitcher has over a batter is the first time they see that batter. Okay? Because they're not really sure how to pick up where the angle's coming from, regardless how fast or slow you're throwing. But that pitcher's going to have that first advantage. And if you set up a bullpen by committee, okay, look, Johnny, you're starting off. I need you to get me 9 outs. I need you to get me 9 outs, however they come. Preferably, I'd like you to go through the lineup one time. As soon as they get adjusted and to little Johnny, okay, little Bobby, it's your turn. Come in and let's get it. And what does? It keeps your pitcher sharp, okay? It keeps your defense sharp because it's not long drawn out, and more than likely you're going to have a faster play game with the ball being put in play. And for the life of me, I'm scratching my head, and I see it consistently. Doesn't matter if it's high school, JUCO, college, and we're professional. That's a whole different deal. You got a whole different resources and everything to go through. But you're going to always have more pitchers than available, and I can't understand for the life of me, why do you have a guy that's on your pitching staff and pitch 2 innings the entire 50-game season? That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, the other thing I've seen some people do is switch pitches almost every inning. So you'll say, okay, look, this is what we're going to do. Depending on how much the guy pitched the weekend before, you're going to have 1 inning. I'm going to go righty, lefty, and just keep switching up which side of the plate which side are they going to see the ball coming from? Switching pitches like that, or you go high velocity, low velocity. If you bring in two right-handers or two left-handers back to back, so it's nothing is the same. You changing where they seeing the ball from and the velocity of it. So it's a couple things that you can do, but like you say, I would still want to see the walks and the errors going back to everything, and that's what I look at in a lot of games. Like even the Cactus Jack, how many walks were given up, how many errors were made, and it's it's almost like a direct correlation of turning the ball over in football with the walks.
Yes,
the more walks you have, the more times that you're gonna be on the losing end, or the more errors that you make, especially if you don't turn double plays, the more likely it is that you're gonna lose that baseball game.
Well, man, we have definitely been well-rounded today, man. We didn't talk some football. We didn't talk some baseball, and it's all good. Let me ask you this one more football question, and
yes,
I heard you briefly touch on it. The Canadian Football League, okay, they call their college sports youth sports, right? I know it's an opportunity for guys to advance their careers or, play on that next level. When you look at this United Football League in comparison to the CFL, is it a step up, in your opinion, for the CFL, or are you still waiting to see what's going to unfold with this UFL?
I think it depends on what position you play. So for the quarterbacks, I think that's going to be a break even for which league you go to. But the wide receivers may have a better chance coming out of the Canadian League because it is a passing league. The defensive ends, because of how many chances you get to rush the passer, you may have a better chance. But I think for the linebackers, the defensive tackles, the offensive linemen, depending on which system they go to, because they pass so much, you can really get a chance. But now you got to be above average run blocker and pass blocker, where it used to be if you play offensive guard, if you're just a good run blocker, you can get by. But now with these defenses being able to find ways to make everybody with the 5-man fronts, you have to be a better one-on-one pass blocker. So if I was an offensive lineman, I may say, well, I may want to go to the Canadian League because they pass, 2 out of every 3 plays. Whereas if I play another position, I may want to go to the UFL because it's a game geared more what the NFL is going to see. So, I would say it may be more position specific as to which route I would advise a guy to go to. And then I think I want to say at one time in the Canadian League, they can only have a certain amount of American or non-Canadian players on the roster or active for games. So that's another thing that you have to deal with up there as well.
Right. I think it's a 3 to 7 man slot per team of Americans that you can have on the roster. They're trying to protect and preserve it, and I guess you can't blame them for that because it is Canadian Football League. But it's always interesting. Are there any rules that they play that you would like to see in American football?
I like to see the guys go in motion because I like the arena football too, but I wouldn't. But they play on a bigger field, so they can afford to put guys in motion before the snap. But I really would almost do away with that pre-snap penalty by the running back. I would do it because that doesn't really affect a whole lot, in my opinion. But, if a receiver, offensive lineman jump, I could be in agreement with that. But the running back or the quarterback, when they jump or, lean forward a little bit, I wouldn't call that penalty. That's about the only thing. And then I would also, too, being a defensive guy, I would make sure that they bring those offensive tackles back up to the line of scrimmage because, you look at the line.
They get back deep. They get back
Man,
deep, partner.
it looked like a field goal formation out there. I hate that.
Yes, sir. Now, I got another UFL question for you. They have 8 teams. 3 of those teams are in Texas, another's in Missouri. You got Birmingham, and I'm forgetting the other ones right off the top of my head. But I'm mentioning those. Ultimately, you would want these guys would more than likely want to be accepted as part of an NFL team or some type of NFL feeder connection. Do you think there is room for the NFL to expand potential? I can see it being a little harder in Texas because you already have the Texans and the Cowboys. But do you think there's room for expansion in the NFL? And if so, how many more teams do you think would be the cap-off point?
Well, I would look back at the cities that have had teams. St. Louis, for example, losing their team. I know San Antonio was in the market for a team, but I heard, and I don't know how true it is, that Jerry Jones did not want to lose that San Antonio market. Then the other thing, I want to say Al Davis was not, because San Antonio was a mix between the Raiders and the Cowboys for who they pulled for. If you went to San Antonio, you saw a whole lot of Raiders gear, or you saw a whole lot of Dallas gear. You didn't see much else. So, but I think San Antonio can be in the mix for a team. Everywhere else is so college dominated, unless you really couldn't see. I couldn't see adding one anywhere else in California, the Seattles, some of those states, the Montanas and all that. I don't think they would have enough business to support, with the buying of the suites and the skyboxes to support having the team. They can do it from the fan standpoint, but the biggest thing, they really don't care if people go to those games in the big scheme of things. They looking for the suites and the television money. So, but I can think of else that had a team besides St. Louis that sort of deserves one. Maybe somewhere in Oklahoma I could maybe see one, but I'm pretty sure they probably get the Kansas City market. Well, I was going to say Kansas City and the Sooners and Oklahoma State, I think would be a pretty hefty market. But from your assessment, you're saying 2 more tops. Yes. Okay. And I would be for one going to St. Louis, represent the old hometown. That's good. Well, Coach, it seems like we always have more to say than enough time. And I want to give you an opportunity to put some closing thoughts together if we're going to come to an end for this week's segment, sir. Yeah, like I say, this is the time of year where you still have a lot going on with coaches moving. You still have a lot in terms of, you got baseball, softball, all the basketball, tennis. You still have a variety of sports that you can go check out at whatever HBCU you decide to go to. So, fans stick in there with your team, your coach. If you started out good, try to make sure you get in there and support the kids. And if you didn't start out so good, like I said, I know Prairie View is struggling in basketball right now, but still go up there and support the kids and let them know that you have their back. And I going back to one thing too, it would be interesting to see how much has the change in who can get in school at Prairie View, how much has that affected the basketball programs? Because that's usually the hardest sport to recruit for when you change your academic requirements for your athletes. So I know that topic had come up before a few years back, as far as 10 years ago, that they may be changing, and I would be interested to see how they did that. But, fans, still go out. I know I'm going home, and I'll check out whatever sporting event Southern has when I'm there. I may actually shoot over to the Legacy Bowl depending on what I got two family commitments, but one may get merged together. So if not, I'm going to actually go over there to New Orleans and watch the Legacy Bowl while I'm at home. So it's a lot going on, sporting, venue-wise and event-wise. So make sure we go out and support our teams, our coaches, our universities, and make it better than what it was, make it as good as it can be for those student athletes.
Well, Coach, when you go to that game, you make sure you take good notes, so we'll have plenty to talk about on next week. How about that, man?
Oh, I will. I'll be looking for the helmet decals and get me a roster and all that kind of stuff. But like I say, hopefully it will work out that I do get a chance to go down there to the game, because I haven't been to it. Like I said, I like supporting the HBCUs, and New Orleans is not a bad place to be when you got some free time.
I know that's right. He is our football guru, baseball expertado. I mean, man, your hat's growing, Coach. Your hat's growing, and you made a mention too, and a lot of people might not notice. You even coach women's basketball at some point in your life too, huh?
Hey, man, remind me next time we talk to tell you about the time I thought my mama stabbed me behind girls basketball. But yeah, hey, and for those that want to know, I did play baseball on a collegiate level. So I played 1 year high school baseball, was lucky enough to get some pro trials when I was still in high school, and I did play for a year at Southern University, but unfortunately injury stopped me from completing my 4 years of baseball at Southern as well.
Understood and duly noted, sir. Thank you so much for joining in with us, my friend. He is our football guru, expert, baseball, basketball, coaching extraordinaire. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. You can follow me on X at The Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, and do visit our website for our 24-hour streaming. And, Coach, I got to remind you, man, on that stream that we offer 24 hours a day, we played your last homecoming game at Old Blackshear Stadium against Alabama State, where you won 34-24. And it just brought back some great memories, man. And so you miss out on stuff like that, folks, so you don't check out that stream at the website at obnradio.com. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.